Hello together. It's again Visionary Talk time, and today I have Morten Bove here from a special company with a special idea. They are upcycling stuff in a special manner, in a special kind. He is not only this company leader, he is not only the founder of this company, he has a lot of ideas. So he's a typically visionary person, as they always are. They not only have one idea, they have thousands of ideas, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to decide what's going first. And you decided to go first now with this company where you build houses. And let's just jump into the middle, introduce yourself first, and say a little bit what's the idea about these upcycling houses you're doing.
Yeah, well, Andrea, and thank you very much for having me. I said my name is Morten Bove, and I'm the founder and CEO of a Danish startup called Wohn. And what we do in Wohn is that we work with upcycled waste streams, upcycled waste wood and waste plastic, of which we 3D print modular homes. And the whole idea is basically in that process, we kind of, I think in English, kill three birds with one stone, which is basically first you turn waste streams into resource streams. That's what we do with the upcycled waste wood and waste fiber. Secondly, we work with the whole issue around plastic waste as such, which is a huge problem we have, huge challenge we have in the world. We then work with affordable housing. Because we have this upcycled waste streams, we're actually able to produce and deliver homes at a way more affordable rate, and we can do it very quickly because of fully automated process via 3D printing. And then finally, the last kind of challenge we solve in the same product is that we reduce the carbon footprint of the construction industry 90%, 90% compared to traditional housing. And again, construction is one of the very big carbon emitters in the world. Construction industry represents some 15 to 20% of the global carbon emissions just by building. And we haven't talked about the emissions of living in a home, what that's saying, but just by building, 15 to 20% of the world carbon emissions come out of construction. So we want to change that. We want to challenge that. The big kind of vision here was really about how can we deal with climate change, fight climate change. How can we deal with affordable housing? How can we deal with waste streams and turn them into a resource? And out of that came Wohn. Not like, okay, we do all this in one go as one single idea. These things develop as you go. But to me, when I founded the company, it was really about kind of social inequality, which was the thing. Starting with saying affordable housing. How can we make housing affordable to most people? And out of that came finding affordable resources. And that was actually where waste streams came into the picture. And then when you start working with waste streams, you come into kind of different circle use, you come into sort of carbon reduction. Mm-hmm. And suddenly things really started to fit together over a period of time. So in Wohn, 3D printing, affordable, sustainable housing out of upcycled wood and plastic. That's what we do.
Okay. That sounds super, super great, super amazing. And my question is, what gave you the courage to start with this idea? Because I think when you are at the beginning, it's a huge idea to create affordable houses, to upcycle stuff, to print them. What gave you the courage to do these first steps? And the confidence.
I think, yeah, I think it's funny. I don't really see it like being super courageous or anything like that. That's not how I see it. I think clearly there is some personality traits in people who do like things like this, people who start companies, who are entrepreneurs. And I think the main driver there is that you see something in the world which is just odd or wrong, and you want to change it. And I think that's where it actually starts. And then you are, as ignorant as we all are as entrepreneurs, and as bold as we are, you actually believe you can do it, you can change it, and you start working. and if you have the tenacity, you actually succeed in it. And this kind of comeback kid kind of approach also. But man, there's tons of obstacles, tons of stuff in the way, which make new, bold, kind of transformative ideas not happen. But it takes. Might take courage. I don't see it like that. If I see anything, it takes tenacity. It takes the tenacity, the perseverance of sticking around and keep developing. I have that. My co-founder in Bowe has the same, and I think kind of being in this team where you actually help and support one another, and you're driven by the same kind of big mission of supplying sustainable and affordable homes. That's super important, actually, to of course be on the same page and also be able to support one another. But to me, what actually made me started was this very big kind of opinion about there's something wrong in the world about social inequality, and very kind of Maslow, each food, water, shelter is in the bottom part. If we can provide people a shelter, a place, a roof over their head, we actually solve a lot of problems going up the Maslow pyramid of things. What do people need? Yeah. And that's where it started, and then things kind of developed from there. So really strong will to change society in that, and do it in I strongly believe, actually, if you want to change stuff, you've got to do it in a super transformative way. You've got to be minimum 10x better than the incumbent product. And to me, you also need to make it in a commercial fashion. I'm a strong believer kind of market forces helping you along the way, which actually comes into commercial case of what we're doing. It's if we need to really have volume, and we need volume to change climate change, we need volume in whatever we do in terms of to change kind of social inequality and affordable housing, you've got to have a product which actually also can attract the financial people of the world. All those of us who really want to, do good, do better in the world. That's our number one kind of priority. That's cool. They're on board from day one, but we need finance as well. And some finance folks they're financial perspective. That's why they're there. That's absolutely fine. Can we get them on board because the financial case is super good? Then you actually have something. Then you can actually move forward. And that's one of the things I think, which is the challenge of many kind of sustainable products, that from the get-go they cost more than the incumbent, than the existing product. Either because people put a margin on them, just chop up, because we can charge more, or just because they are harder to produce or cost more to produce. I think if you face that thing, forget about the extra price, just use the green margin. Forget about that. That's definitely wrong. But if you cannot compete on existing market terms, you've got to change your product. You've got to change your business model, your supply chain, whatever is in there to make the product super competitive. There are lots of stuff out in the world in terms of which product or process is subsidized and which is not, or which is taxed and which is not, which does not make the world a fair place. And it's not. The playing field is not fair. But I mean, that's how it is. You got to operate that in that kind of not totally fair marketplace. And clearly there's some very, in that regard, say, unfair stuff going on in who is paying for the carbon emissions of the incumbent product like cement and concrete and steel and stone wool for insulation and so on. They do not pay what it really was supposed to pay, which means that their products are having a competitive advantage to new products coming in. But I mean, that's fact of life. That's how it is. We can change it. We can work with it. But we also need to get some other product out there, and then you've got to change your own kind of business model and business approach. And that's been really the thinking of Bowe from the beginning, being high volume, high impact, super competitive, and financially very viable solution to the world. Because that's how we can move volume. The more stuff we get out there, the more homes we install, the more concrete has been taken away from the whole housing equation. So and again, You see, the whole, and everybody, when I speak to everybody, say, I always end up talking about climate because that's really what's filling up my head.
Oh.
That's every move I do has a climate angle to it. Because I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in the world.
Yeah,
it is definitely. Again, the irony is, the funny thing is, it started with social inequality, it moved on to climate because they're interrelated. You know, the impact of climate change hits those the most which has the least. That's a fact. You know, in our part of the world, who are those who are the biggest emitters in general? We are those who are influenced the least of climate change. Mm-hmm. So to me, these two things are actually related in many ways. And we are those who can actually change it. We are those also who are responsible of changing our approach to do things. So yeah, so always talk about climate and climate change. You know, that's my number one. Every conversation we ends over there, and I have very strong opinions about it. And there might be also another driver. You know, what made you do this? Really thinking, okay, I have no idea if we succeed. We don't know that yet. Looks like it. We're doing good, but it's really, I want to change. I want to move the dice in terms of how do we deal with climate change? How do we build stuff? How do we reduce the carbon emissions of our doings? And I picked then the vertical of housing out of this kind of very Maslowish kind of approach. Let's give people a shelter. Then we solve an awful lot of problems in the same moment, in the same go.
So you can also expand it. I think in Europe, it's to have a shelter. It's at the moment not the biggest problem. It's other countries that have a bigger problem with giving people a shelter. So you're also thinking worldwide. I think it's not only
definitely
and where you're coming from, so Belgium or some Germany or so.
Yeah, you can say definitely. The bonus of concept is a global concept, definitely, and you can say, and affordable housing is actually an issue all over the world. Say in the UK, you miss every year, you are low of 50,000. They call them starter homes, but the same thing. 50,000 starter / tiny living sort of homes in the UK. Denmark in total will miss from 20,000-30,000. In Sweden, the same thing. Ireland, 80,000. The German numbers I don't know. I know it's the hundreds of thousands of homes actually needing. So it is demand all over the place. But you're absolutely right. If you go to Asia, if you go to Africa, you know the demand is only millions. You know, it's huge demand, and then it comes down to how can we make a product which is actually affordable, which can be made locally, so we don't ship stuff around too much. Where we have a high degree of automation, but that's also what brings us the cost and price down to things. Again, we're not in Asia or Africa yet. We are Fredrik actually engaged in Kenya for some reason via the Danish Technical University and Copenhagen University. Is a project where we have been engaged. For that reason, we happen to be around with Kenyan stakeholders a lot, but we're not doing anything there yet. But the demand for them is also, you know, huge. They want to build some of like 250,000 homes within the next 5 to 10 years in Kenya just to meet up with demand. And then, of course, is the buying power the same in these places than it is currently in Northern Europe or Western Europe? It is not. So you've got to figure out a way. How can you source locally? How can you make homes which fit local purchasing power and local demands? And they're not the same. But the overall concept about upcycling waste streams, use them as a resource, and then use highly automated production process like 3D printing. That's the same thing. That's the thing which you can't say we can't copy from one region to the other. So and again, being Scandinavian, and we have problems and so on. No, we don't. We are super spoiled in Scandinavia. You know, if you look at other places in the world, we don't need anything. You know, like really. But everything is kind of relative to, you know, what's just outside your door happening there. So yeah. So the demand for what we do is way bigger, actually, in other parts of the world than where we actually come from.
So could we say that it's not only a company who is real building or upcycling houses, it's also a concept, it's a kind of thinking you're selling so that and you're like trying to figure out now how you can grow a concept for the whole world to change thinking about living.
Yeah, you can say so. Actually, I haven't really looked at that way often. I think because when you're so deep into things, it's very interesting to hear others kind of comment or say, "So what you do is it actually this or is it that?" It's super interesting. For sure, it is a company. It's a company which we want to grow. We want to grow and build it, globally for sure, definitely. But you are absolutely right. It is also a thinking. It is also an approach, and it's definitely a thinking and say idea about how do we source our materials for construction, for building, taking waste streams. How are we responsible as companies, also as people, on reducing our footprint, anything we do, also with regard to the footprint of the physical home we live in. That's the reason why the whole thesis about tiny living or tiny homes is very close to home. No pun intended, very close to our hearts in Vaughan. Yes, you can say that is a thinking, that is a thesis we would really like to push and roll out globally. You gotta reduce our footprint, everything we do, also in regard to the physical footprint and space of our homes. Mm-hmm. And we believe when you work with modularity as we do, you can do that. We all have to learn to live kind of denser but smarter. There's a lot of technology out there. We can to make our lives a lot easier in the homes we have. And you can say the good news is, if you look on the global demographics, you have urbanization. People move to cities every day. 200,000 people in the world move to a city in the world, not like one big chunk, but just like continuous float. 200,000 people a day move to a city, which keeps or makes it gives a lot of pressure. It puts a lot of pressure on the cities. Well, they cannot absorb it. They cannot do it. Then prices rise because demand is higher than supply and so on. That's where we come in very handy. Then we can actually supply the affordable homes. And by the way, you're this many people in this city. You only have a limited amount of space. You've got to learn to live denser. You've got to transform existing kind of housing which is there. You've got to build new houses inside existing houses. You've got to kind of build in between stuff on top of all the stuff you can do. And that's where the 3D printing concept comes in very handy, because we can transform via code actually how should this kind of home construction kind of look like, so it fits whatever build environment we actually build in. Mm-hmm. So from a sustainability point of view, urbanization is like really good, because the usage of the infrastructure in a certain city environment is way better utilized. There's so many thousand people using 1 kilometer of pipe for water or sewage or electricity, whatever is there, compared to the other country. At the same side, if you can say empty, we don't. But if you people move from the countryside into cities, that actually leaves the open land, more empty, more spacious, which triggers this rewildering process, which is super important for us to do as well. In the EU, 30% of land should now be regenerated, returned into kind of wild, untouched land. Talks in the UN is going about the same notion. So the whole thing about rewildering our kind of countryside is super important for biodiversity point of view, for kind of sustainability point of view, for the health of living point of view. So urbanization is one of the very positive drivers in that regard. And also another thing just happening of demographic without us doing anything, 40% of the households in 2030 is predicted to be based on a single income, which means it is kind of the single culture, that people don't live kind of in traditional families anymore. It's really a thing. 40% is a lot. And that requires more homes. We don't have space for them, which means it requires more but smaller homes. And that's where this tiny living concept comes into play again. And you can do that kind of in big cities. You can also do it kind of, at the outskirts of cities in different ways of new types of living, more kind of, say, collective kind of approach. We have this number of small flats around, small homes around, and then you have some bigger units, some bigger mothership where we all go together. We want to do that, but we also retreat and be private because we need some privacy as well. But we don't need privacy of 200 meters square per person. No way. We need 20-meter privacy per person. That's a thing we have to do. And tendency so far in the Western world being, we build bigger, more prestigious and monstrous, a lot of it. I see the thing is changing. It is not cool anymore to be a super, let's say, consumer of anything. It is just uncool. And that is kind of one of the very big news. The notion is changing. I think it's going way too slowly, but it is changing. That's good news. I see with my own kids. Also, they're there. With my friends, I'm mid-50s. Part of the population of my friends are there where I am. The other part is kind of dragging their feet because it's hard to change. But I have great hopes actually for future in that regard. That actually the notion is changing, and I want to be part of that group of people who can actually help the change happen, facilitate it, and make it happen even faster. So again, back to why do you do this? I want to see change, and if nobody else do it, if I can't see anybody else do it, then I'll try and do it. With zero guarantee of success. That's the point. Nobody knows, but at least you tried. That's
so much mission, so much driven. It has to be a success.
I believe so. We hope so. Definitely.
I talk to a lot of visionary people, and that's always this high mission driven position you have, and it's that makes you different, the visionary people, from the other people, that you have really this inner calling. You cannot handle and acting in another way than go for your mission, for your vision, and that's the pulse, the power it needs to have the success at the end. Perhaps not always in this way you thought it would happen, but in some kind, it's just the other stuff you mentioned, that you have the ability to look at the situation at the now and change to instant the different changes that have to be done to have the success. So you're always looking and analyzing the now to grow further. So if you have some stuff to figure out because it doesn't work like you thought it would working, you're just here in the moment and you change it and are looking for another solution. And that's super visionary. That's really that's a quality of visionary people, and that's all because also they are succeeding at the end with a product, perhaps not with a starting product, but at the end with some kind of product that will start. And what I love about your idea is that it's not only a product, it's you could nearly say it's a whole life concept behind it. And when we grow, that's thinking it's a life concept, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. I say I can talk to myself, I can talk to my co-founder. We are on fire on this. We can talk nothing about this. Our families hate us because we could talk nothing about this. That's not the case. But sure, the when you meet some new people and they say, "What do you do? What do you do?" Well, that's super interesting. And then you start talking. I can see my wife say, "Come on, here goes again."
I think you have been 2 hours.
Exactly. And that is kind of, and I think that might go again. I don't see this, like that's a trait of visionary people. But I think you're right. But it definitely is a trait of driven people. You are on fire. On what you want to do, and you cannot do any differently than what you actually do in terms of push this idea, concept, vision further out of the market. That's what you live and breathe for. Definitely. So that's definitely right. And then again, the ability to be fast on your feet, be agile, as as a modern word for basically being ready for change and do quick changes yourself. Always adjust. So you actually hit the target. That also goes with being a startup as well. There's also a founder trait that you are actually prepared. You are fast in your feet in terms of changing direction. You pivot, you correct, you test, and you learn from the testing. You fail, you learn from your failures. You get on your feet again, so on. But I mean, I suppose these things actually goes in pairs. Founder traits and visionary traits. But it's when you talk about being founder of something which where the idea is, or the vision is, really to change the world, change and transform how we do things. I really like the word transformation as such, because to me that's really very impactful word, to transform things. And you just don't judge, you fundamentally change things when you transform the way you do and act. So transformative change, I mean, that's what I do.
That's great. And when we think, well, we have been talking about the life concept, and when you're thinking about your idea as a concept, what would you think are the connections to other companies, to other businesses? Where could you grow together and create an even bigger vision together?
I think definitely there are talk construction. There's a lot of moving parts in construction. One thing is making the structure, the whole carcass itself. You can say that that's one thing, and next to that comes all the stuff you put in it. What do you call the energy frame around it. How do you heat and cool it? The furniture, the flooring, everything put in there should be designed for assembly. So there are lots of partners in our field which you can actually work with. And I say in construction, a lot is happening there. A lot of partnership is happening. The problem in construction in general is that the margins are very low. And that's the reason why construction companies actually very often now goes out of business, or it's hard to change the price. But again, that's where we come in very handy, because we completely different approach of how to do things. But I think I see companies in this field in fighting climate change really, really need to work together, and they start doing it. Because there's one thing about building, build a house, and again, that represents 50% of a global carbon footprint. Next one is, okay, how do you live in it? What's the sources of your energy? How do you spend your energy? The water going in, can you take what's called grey water out? The grey water what comes out of your sink and toilet and so on. Can that be reused actually for flushing in the toilets, or watering your garden, or for watering the green roof on top of your house? Tons of technologies out there which I don't have to invent, because they're there already. But these kind of, say you build a house, you construct a house, we print it, we source it, we print it, we put stuff in it. That stuff got to come from somewhere, and somebody who has the same thing as we have in terms of sustainability, about sort of reducing, minimizing carbon footprint of living in the house, because that's the next phase. People live in these houses 50 to 100 years. That got to be sustainable as well. So I see a lot of opportunity in this field of collaboration, and I see it's also happening. If you go one step back, the electricity source we have, where does that come from? It doesn't matter. It doesn't help too much. You have the world's best kind of sort of produced house, and it's good in all kinds of parameters. If you still, heat it with electricity coming from a coal-powered power plant, you might use less, but it's still a coal-powered power plant where your electricity comes from, which is not good at all. So we have to look at what's our grid like, what's the resources from where we make electricity. Is it sustainable like the traditional ways out of hydro, geothermal, wind, solar? Is it nuclear coming in? I see personally nuclear power as a green energy source. It's definitely a low carbon and no zero carbon footprint energy source. So on a different kind of nuclear kind of reactor types coming in. I'm no expert in this, but I feel extremely important to look at those things as well. So we cannot go in here be with just one product and we saw one corner of the puzzle. We do, but in order to make the whole puzzle go into being a picture, which we can all see ourselves and can actually see what does it look like. We gotta work together with all the other kind of bits and pieces in the overall image. And I see actually in the sustainability field that is actually happening. We have in Denmark now. We have building codes for everything. We have European building codes and so on. But also, some of the building codes is really about what's the carbon footprint of building a house. And what happened now? Legislation. Our lawmakers they are slow on their feet. They are not courageous, unfortunately. Industry has now come together and started and established what's called reduction roadmap, which is actually a roadmap. How can we, as industry, reduce the carbon footprint of the homes? And we are kind of 2.5 to 3 times lower in the carbon footprint requirements, or say, feeling in what we suggest a new building code should contain, compared to what the lawmakers are actually suggesting. But then we are saying, as industry, we can do this. We as industry can reduce the carbon footprint of reducing of building. So 3 times or 1/3, you can say, of the ceiling which you lawmakers are actually suggesting. And we gotta do that. So lawmakers, you gotta be more courageous, because you always have bad actors, also bad actors in our field, and it is an opportunity for bad actors to just keep on producing the way they did in the past. They will do it, and they are indirectly subsidized because they're not taxed, and so on. The reduction roadmap it contains everything in terms of the carbon footprint per kilo. Carbon footprint in kilos per meter square house every the coming 50 years. That will give a lot of trouble to folks producing with concrete, as an example. Concrete comes cement with very big emitters. It is possible you can do it, but clearly the concrete people, they haven't signed that charter, because that's a threat to the business. But basically, I don't care, because it's a bigger threat to society than actually continue building the way we do today. Which means we have to reschool, we have to retrain, we have to rethink how we do things. It's been like this all the way. Every time you innovation, every time you have transformative change, existing incumbent systems lose out because they're just not good enough, and they are not, correct anymore. People working in those fields, we have to help them to change, to do something else. We have to retrain. So that's why we have to put resources. When I think about how do we encourage change? Just about, it is not just about closing some and open somebody else. There are people involved in this. We have to help them find new jobs, be retrained to do other stuff. Denmark, we are an old, back in the day, big textile country. We still love the society still, and kind of famous for that. But producing was a very big thing, basically sewing. It was a very big thing there. There are no sewing factory around Denmark anymore. And clearly, it was a lot of fuss when they all closed one by the other, just out compete. And I think the learning there was that we had to try to retrain people to do something differently, and we have to take the learning again. How can we retrain people to basically get a new job, get a new assistance, educate them actually what's the right thing to do, and so on. And that's part of this when you talk about how to facilitate change. You really have to have the boldness of doing it, the courageousness of doing it, but you also have to be aware there are people in the puzzle, and how can you help them? And you don't help them by slowing things down. Then you do more hurt, more harm to other people. You help all of us by helping these people who actually are directly involved and who might suffer, move them. Do help them move on to the next job, to the next kind of thing they're doing. And I think we're not very good at that in society today. And that's why. And then things get polarized. People stand in opposite corners, start shouting at each other, and that is not productive. That is not good. Definitely not good. So visionary thinking, the idea to change things and make transformative change, that really comes that it has a lot of kind of, you can say, side jobs with it, which you need to do in order to make it happen. Definitely.
So that's a good thing, and I told you we will have to talk short. We could talk for hours. This we knew
Mm.
both of us.
Yeah, I know that. Sorry about that. That's actually true. Yeah. When I get
Let me take the last question with the wand. If you had this magic wand, what would you need today to conjure for now?
Yeah, I love that. Having a magic wand, that'll be amazing. I want to have a magic wand. So what I would do with that is actually, if I could change the thinking in everybody's heads to really take full responsibility of their carbon footprint, change behavior, be less comfortable, be in terms of what we did today also or yesterday also do that today, and be more kind of courageous in that sense that okay, I actually change my habit, I change what I eat, I change my diet, I change my way of traveling, I change my physical footprint of what I do in my house, I change how much and in what car do I have a car at all I'm driving, change my behavior, because if we all do that in tandem, and we can really change things, and that can actually this change in people's minds also goes to politicians. They're also type of people. So I want to change. I want to change what goes on in their heads as well. Be more courageous. I just want people to really take responsibility on them and be courageous, be curious and courageous, and change your habits. Because I think the biggest threat to climate change not happening at the moment, that is the threat people see of what's around the corner. We don't know that, but we know what we have now. And I'm also very comfortable, so I like what I'm having, and maybe it's not so bad. It is, but yeah, I'm very hopeful we can actually change it. But if use magic wand, change people, what's going on inside their heads, and be more courageous and curious of how can I change my own kind of approach and attitude of what I do in regard to reduce carbon footprint in all my doings.
That's a super great
This is a magic one.
We have this. And because
Yeah.
we can change it by being inspirational as you are, and you have so much power, so much fire for this mission. So I think that's like a magic wand for your mission. So you're sparkling, and we're sparkling.
Thank you very much.
It's visionary talk. So everybody out there who has also a mission, who has this burning desire inside him, wants to talk about it. It's the possibility. Write me. We can make the same talk, and not the same, but we can make a talk as well about your vision. My name is Andrea Betschart from Essential Coaching, and I do trainings and I do these talks because I love to talk to visionary people like Morten. And I hope you will succeed soon, and we will still hear from this life concept, and that a lot of people will integrate something they have heard now from you already in their life now, because you mentioned a lot of stuff everybody can integrate just in a moment in his own life. We don't have to build up and up cycles of houses to change our behavior. We can do that each day. And thank you for being here, Morten, for your time you spend with me to talk about your vision, your mission, and I wish you all the best for your mission.
Thank you. You're welcome. It was a pleasure being here. And I said I could talk forever about this, but we cracked it this time. That's good. Thanks a lot. Okay. Bye now.
Bye. And thanks for looking this talk to the people out there. There will come some more visionary talks. Bye.
Bye now. Cheers.